go back to your question, because your question was, what do I think of as digital embellishment, right? And that's a really broad question, because in my perspective today, embellishment can be a special die cut. It can be, it can be scented inks. It can be, there's a myriad of different technologies and processes that have been out there that are taking your flat CMYK print beyond print.
What's up, everyone? It's Eric Vessels with Taktiful. Welcome back to another episode of Taktiful Tuesdays, episode 40. It's your weekly stop to explore how print finishing, digital embellishment, and creative tech are reshaping what's possible in print. Today's guest is my good friend Sean Roberts, National Director of Digital Embellishment for Konica Minolta Industrial Print. He has decades working across sectors like wide format, packaging, tag and label, inkjet, additive manufacturing, and more. Sean has been accelerating digital transformation at every turn. He's passionate about moving embellishment from a nice to have to the baseline of what clients expect, adding visual, tactile, and profit value. So he aligns very closely to us as well. Sean lives in New Hampshire with his wife and 2 teens, so he knows all about balancing high-tech work and real life. We'll get into some real life stuff too, hopefully. We'll dive into his journey, what digital embellishment really means in the field, how Konica Minolta is pushing boundaries, and we'll throw in some fun questions too, as we always do, to get to know the person behind the role. Sean, great to have you on the show. Finally.
Hey, yeah, Eric, listen, great to be here with an intro like that. It's probably going to be the shortest podcast you ever had. I think you just
these
nailed
are
it
so
all.
long,
you know the whole
bro.
thing.
No, man. Listen, we're going to turn around and go, how did 30 minutes go by? Because it's a lot of fun. It's really laid back. We have a blast with this stuff. And I'm just realizing now, like, I'm so off brand right now with no ball cap. Like, this is,
I know, right?
Right. Like, you've got probably the only episode of Taktiful Tuesdays of me with just hair, which is
I'm
odd.
pretty honored. Usually I just see the online avatar of it.
Au naturel, right, buddy? Au naturel is what you get today, right?
I love it. That's good.
From Rubylith to digital embellishment, you've said you began in print when people were masking plates with Rubylith.
I was, yeah.
What was, I wasn't. What was that early experience like, and how did it plant the seeds for your interest in high-tech finishing and embellishments and just the print in general? Like, so, I mean, the point to this question is, like, you go back a bit and what has that journey shown you in terms of, like, where you're at now, giving you the perspective that you have running digital embellishments for CAN?
Yeah, listen, great question. I think, to go way back. Look, before I was even in the print industry, I wanted to be a meteorologist a long time ago, right? Because I like data, right? Yeah, so science and data and stuff on the side of things. So, but through my undergrad degree, I kind of took a little bit of a pivot and, graduated with design and graphic communication. One of my first roommates in college, as I was already in the lab there, kind of working on as administrator tech, working on the Macs and kind of keeping everything nice and clean. So I kind of went into it from a half IT perspective, half design perspective, and found a creative outlet. And, I've been very fortunate in right out of, school, right around that's funny to say, at the turn of the century, getting into true, professional printing, and was into prepress, right? Prepress and computers and design. And of course, one of the first things we were doing back then is plate making was still huge. And the organization that I had joined didn't even yet have CTP, right? It was still like actually, going out for negatives, making metal plates get burned, and or paper plates in house for real cheap stuff. So hence, Rubylith and Goldenrod paper, is you're kind of making sure that there were no, dings in the negatives and stuff, as you can shoot those. I think, I've been fortunate in, I like to think everybody's been fortunate, right? But I like to, every place I've worked in my career path or my journey, I've found, mentors, right? So that first commercial print shop that I worked in about 2000, 2004. The owner of that company was, ex-veteran, Marine Corps. And so he taught me things like tenacity and work ethic and, respect, right? In terms of how you treat individuals, both commercially and professionally. And I've kind of always tried to carry that forward. When I left there and went into another, commercial print shop, more digital, right? So kind of transformed, if you will, from kind of standard conventional processes into sort of digital technology. And, that owner, president of the business, was ex-Nike we worked for operations for Nike, and left that and kind of got into printing just as an odd pivot. And so taught me, working for him, things like, innovation, ingenuity, leverage, like how can you do more with less, right? And left there and went over to EFI, which has spent, over a decade or so at, where lots of wonderful mentors, but one of the closest ones, good friend of yours and mine, taught me things like take strategic risks, be bold, right? And sometimes the worst thing you can do is to do nothing. Flash forward, several years later, here at Konica Minolta, working for another great mentor that I really appreciate, in the industry, that's taught me to just be a little bit more, strategic and to think about sort of holistic and broad picture. And so I think that's a long-winded way, Eric, and say, why does that keep me excited about print? Because I think this industry is around transformation, right? Is around never stop learning, is around always bringing in something new to help kind of shape and drive and make people inspired. And I've been kind of fortunate to have a kind of a career where I've always been inspired and found new things. So it's exciting.
Well, so the question really wasn't focused around this, but I love the fact that you focused it around mentors, because I talk a lot about this in the podcast. It's like, who helped you, who brought you up, and almost always, no matter who you talk to, they have that person or those group of people at different organizations that they highlight. And I think that's one of the most important things that I think we can remember from the people side of it is, because I feel like I'm in a little bit of the give back era of my career. A lot of people help me. Goodness, if Frank Romano hadn't really bought into the concept of what they think, I'm not sure we ever would have been around, right? But he did, and he's been an amazing mentor. He used to always call us the kids. He's like, "Hey, kids," because Frank
Yeah.
seems like Frank's been around forever. But I think that concept of like being mentored, but then once you arrive, finding those opportunities to mentor others, because our industry is really about the people. So I love that your answer throughout your career and all of those different things centered on the mentorship. I really, really love that. Is mentoring something that you have done or have thought about doing? I've latched on to I mentored a college student at Cal Poly, and it was just one of the most, I think probably the most impactful things I've done in my career, to be honest, just seeing her flourish and grow. And so, yeah, I think mentoring is an amazing thing. You probably just do it naturally in the course of your team that you work with.
Well, so that's so I was just going to answer that question. I mean, I did, professionally for a little while. I was an adjunct professor at a community college locally here in New England,
Nice.
running a design program. But to be perfectly, frank, I never really saw that as mentoring. Honestly, I don't think I've learned enough in my career to be mentored. I'm just a constant level of sort of, thinking that you never have. I mean, to me, to be a mentor, I have those in my life. Those, as I've already mentioned, some of those career mentors. Gosh, I wonder if they think that they're like not good enough to be a mentor, but they are. They're wonderful. They've been great, and they've taught me things for decades. Stuff that still today kind of has shaped who I am, both professionally and sort of
Sure.
individually. But no, I guess to answer that question, I don't think that in any sort of a relationship have had mentors like you've just described, like with somebody from Cal Poly, anything along those lines. And part of it is like, man, I can't. I'm there's still so much to learn. How can I mentor when I don't know? I know nothing, right?
Right.
That part, I think, is just the continuous journey of
bit of imposter syndrome there. Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And I feel that pretty strongly. But I think it's just what it comes down to is just being willing to help and just having that humble nature of just like, hey, how can I help you? Like bounce it off of me, whatever. Because I think learning, really what I've learned about learning and teaching is it's not necessarily one direction. I mean, it's 100% not one direction. Like I've probably learned more in teaching than I have in being taught, right? Like it's like an evolution. It's constantly like as you learn, you teach, and they teach you, and people that you're teaching teach you. So it's a whole ecosystem. Anyway, let's move on to a subject that we both love, which is digital embellishment. And I wanted to ask you, what does digital embellishment mean to you today, especially as it becomes more accessible? What key capabilities do you think distinguish it from traditional embellishment methods? And why is that
Yeah.
important? Why?
Right. So great question. And to me, I mean, again, I mentioned earlier in this conversation that some of my mentors have shaped my persona to kind of take a holistic look and a holistic approach. So obviously, National Director for Konica Minolta, we got a line of digital embellishment gear and tech, right? But that's not typically what I focus on. I mean, it is, right? And when people are interested in, hey, what can I do beyond print, right? And they focused on what does Konica Minolta offer that, goes beyond print. I mean, we can talk about text and speeds and feeds, but I want to go back to your question because your question was, what do I think of as digital embellishment, right? And that's a really broad question because in my perspective today, embellishment can be a special die cut. It can be, it can be scented inks. It can be, there's a myriad of different technologies and processes that have been out there that are taking your flat CMYK print beyond print, right? And they've been around conventionally for a long time. You probably know this better than I do. A hot stamp press was invented in like 1890. I'm going to get this year wrong, 1894, 1892, something, but let's just say well over 100 years. So that's not like new technology. What I think is so revolutionary today, and this is very similar to any type of disruptive or revolutionary technology that comes to market. It's an enabler. So those conventional, hot stamp presses in the past kind of were limiting in the fact that, you had to have a big press run to actually make it cost effective for the dies or for the whole process and the make ready and the setup. They were not as accessible, right? Because I talked about a big piece of printing machinery with, just like a traditional printing press from probably 40 years ago. And many of the big commercial outfits out there today probably still have them on their floor, right? I've had the luxury of walking through a lot of production facilities and seeing some really great new high-tech gear and some that is, has a nameplate on it from 1960s. So they've been running for a while, but those are very, kind of mechanical. So today, what's I think so interesting about the embellishment technology is moving it over to digital makes it more accessible. You don't have dies or plates or overhead, no different than traditional conventional printing, let's say offset printing compared to some of the digital printing technologies that are out there today, right? They become more pervasive in the market because they're easy to adopt, because they're easier to use. And really, they are really a wide range of capabilities from very, very short run, which I think is where, this is not unique to embellishment. We're seeing a lot of the market move in that trend today. You want to be able to iterate quick, even big brands, they want to iterate really quickly. They want to do a test run here, a test run there. They want to be able to move very quickly and respond to market conditions quickly. The idea of printing hundreds of thousands or millions of, single static pieces, is really slim today in terms of who wants to do that. So that digital technology makes that so easy, right? To do very short run, to do long run, to
Yep.
have such a wide range of capabilities, and it's seamless with a lot of the upstream digital print technologies, right? So we've put all sorts of, again, tech into the equipment that makes it, very, very user friendly and seamless to move your product through that value stream of the print manufacturing.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be a bit of an argument about how do you define this or define that in the industry, and how you define digital embellishment ultimately, or any embellishment ultimately, is about the customer, right? And I see it the same way you do. If you're taking your standard print CMYK and you're adding value to it, I view that as an embellishment. Now, that just may be a finishing technique. It could be, some people disagree with me on this, it could be an additional color that make the print pop, using neon pink, for instance, to make skin tone look way better than it would just CMYK. I feel like that's an embellishment. It's adding value. It's adding something to it. So it doesn't just have to be foil, and it doesn't just have to be varnish. It doesn't have to be a tactile nature, although it is. It's all of those things, right? So
Well, I mean, if you
that's kind of how I see it. And the ability, because if you look at it, the ability to go short run now is aligning with market forces. What's happened post-COVID? We're seeing a lot more people start really small businesses, the Etsy economy, the ability, and those folks can't run 100,000. Like, they're not the P&Gs, right? They're not running a whole big, hundreds of thousands of packaging jobs. They want to run, 1,000 or 500 of whatever it is that they're making. And digital embellishment seems to be coming on board right as that market force is sort of happening. I see alignment there.
Look, absolutely, and just going back to what you're saying in terms of how embellishment is viewed. I mean, if we pull on this thread for a quick second, it's kind of interesting to pull it together for you. But like, the term embellishment in general, right? If you and I were sitting here having a conversation and you were embellishing your story, right? You could argue you're adding something to the story that didn't exist initially, right? Why are you doing that? Because in your mind or my mind, you're adding value, you're adding like emphasis, you're adding emphasis to the story. So when you apply that same idea over to print, what are you doing? You're helping to convey the message, right? You're helping to convey the story. You think about somebody's branding, and that, especially you mentioned packaging, right? The packaging experience of the unboxing and everything that's going on now with online influencing, that becomes an experience, right? That becomes part of the story that you're trying to tell. So to put those level of enhancements, sometimes they're called print enhancements, right? Print embellishments.
Yeah.
To put that on top, I think really just, kind of helps to help convey that message. I heard a statistic, this is at least 5 years old, right? So it's actually, around that COVID time, probably even pre-COVID, that, the top big brands, we'll call them the 6 to 10 big brands that are out there, especially in packaging, right? Every big box store you walk through and you're buying your consumer goods, you look at the back, they're typically owned by one of those big brands. I mean, they own like 80% of the SKUs that are out there in the market, which sounds huge, right? And there's the same level of very large converters and packaging companies that cater to those brands, right? And those have the majority stake of the controlling of all the SKUs that are out there. But remember, that other 20%
It's
is
still
like
a big number.
it's hundreds of thousands of brands that are out there looking for ways to get their product to market, and they can't really do it effectively against those big companies.
Yeah.
And so, it's really great opportunity for a lot of that short run, work. I mean, we used to see this in my EFI days with, single pass corrugate printing for florist companies or, small run, more boutique regional organizations that are looking to get their product out there to market. Just really don't know where to turn.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely right. You look at it and it's like, oh, well, that's only, 15% of the market. That 15% is still a really big number.
It is. It's big. Yeah, it's
There's
big.
a lot of opportunity out there. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so I think that's it's well established. I think there's definitely some market forces that are aligning to the technology coming on board. We're seeing adoption year over year.
Yeah.
Printers are using it more. Printers are looking at adopting new technology more. It's definitely, I would put it in that realm of like, the years ago when everybody was bringing digital printing on board, like everybody, variable data had to have it. Like it was just blowing up. And then we went through a big wide format area. We went through kind of a packaging boom, still kind of going through it. Packaging one of those things that's just like, it's OG and it's going to be a growth market forever, right? Because it's like packaging is the one physical thing that's not going digital. And so that's just easily going to be a baseline. But I'm seeing the power of what people are doing with digital embellishment and how it makes a difference. And printers are like starting to perk up going, well, how do I be a part of that? So it's exciting.
Yeah, well, and that's key to talk about just for a second too, because everything you just mentioned there in terms of print transformation, commercial printing going over to digital, the rise of packaging, even in super wide format. I was fortunate enough to kind of be involved with a lot of those digital transformations, and so it's one of the reasons that that I'm doing what I do today, because I recognized embellishment as sort of that next revolution. Where again, probably pre-COVID, I would say maybe 5-10 years ago, it was interesting, it was niche. People looked at it and said, oh, that looks really cool. I wonder if that's going to take, right? Like those really early adopters and those pioneers did adopt some of the technology. Those are some of the, industry pioneers that you see out there today, customers of ours, customers of other, embellishment organizations as well. They've done very, very, very well. And I think what we're seeing now is that more mainstream, more wider adoption throughout the marketplace. I know since I've been with Konica Minolta, we've definitely seen an uptick in the awareness and the interest, and people no longer thinking what is embellishment, but saying, oh no, I know exactly what that is, and really how do I get it, right?
Yeah. No, it's gone from I've always thought there's like a difference between a technology that you go to a trade show to see and a technology that you go to a print shop to see, right? Like once you're going to the actual print shop and it's there and it's a part of that process, it's a part. It's in the industry, right? It's in the mainstream, and we've seen that, because you're always going to get like the new stuff that's not It's the same thing on the consumer level for the Consumer Electronics Show. You go there and you see all this stuff that's not, you can't go buy right now. Like it's,
Right. Yeah.
but it's
3 years
coming.
from now kind of stuff.
But it's
Yeah.
coming, and that's, so we're seeing, and we always talk about it like this when we present, is like digital embellishment was this cool little niche thing that was kind of off in the corner. And now it's really kind of in the center of the shop because people are starting to think digital embellishment first. Like, how do I, and why? Why are they thinking that? The reason is because the margins are there, because there is such a psychological component to this thing that it obliterates pricing objections, right? Once you discover something that's just so hot that people just want it, and they're just, not that they don't think about price at all, but it, in their brain, it goes down a couple of levels because they're just like, damn, if I could have my business card feel that cool or look that cool with all the foil or what. So we're that's what we're seeing. Definitely starting to be mainstream, and it's, I think you're looking at two of the guys that are partly responsible for that. But
Yeah. Hey,
that's just
we'll
gonna
take that
be
credit later, right? For sure.
that's just
But I think, too, the other thing that's really kind of, I think, taking digital embellishment to kind of turn that corner is some of the analysis, right? Some of the statistics, some of the independent study that has gone on in the past several of years that really substantiate that it's called consumer engagement, right? I know we don't focus this all exclusively on packaging, but the big part around it on packaging is the consumer engagement. And so I think the brands now, it resonates more with the brands that understand that more today, and they need to differentiate. So they're looking to this type of print technology to do the shorter runs, more iterative, more regional. You'll see this especially in distilled beverages or spirits, right? Trying to stand out, do limited edition things, seasonal things, and they want to be able to do much shorter runs. So that's definitely, I think we're seeing more of that today, because I think the brand buyers, the print buyers, recognize this is something that's here to stay. It does make sense to do it. There is science behind that embellishment, right? And connecting with the senses. So that's definitely, I think, had every print manufacturer now take a keen open eye towards, ooh, maybe this is something I should really be offering, because if I'm not doing it, I know my guy down the street will, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not, guy down the lucky part about the value proposition is the guy down the street might not have the capability, right? Like if, like right
Right.
now is this what I've been calling the value era. Like if you have digital embellishment equipment, you're uniquely positioned to extract value out of the market that not others have. And the reason why is because not others have it, because it's not gone down that commodity road yet, where a lot of CMYK work has, because I can just, I can stand on a street corner and face 3 different directions and walk and find a printer to quote the job. With digital embellishments, it's not that right now. And it's not going to be that way for a while. So we really preach maximizing that value of that. So one of the things that we do in the industry is we all gather, and we have a really big gathering coming up here soon in about a month in Orlando, called
Yeah.
Printing United Expo, October 22nd to the 24th. I know we're doing a lot of little videos that we're going to be putting out there, so won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but I did want to get your perspective on the tour that we're doing and just get kind of a flavor for, you guys are a stop on the Embellishment Technology Tour, which is going to be 10 different
Yeah.
stops that we're going to make. You're actually the first stop because you're in booth 5200 and we're in
200. Yep.
5407. So we're
We,
literally
we're
like,
gonna we're gonna like throw footballs across the aisle to each
I
other.
think we're like 10 steps from you guys.
Right.
So the tours always start in Tactful, and then they're going to come to you. And then there's 9 other stops, and then we're going to end at Tactful. But what we're really trying to do is show the depth and breadth of what's available in embellishment, whether
Hmm.
it's cut sheet, or we even have some wide format folks that's got some tactile things going on, whether it's digital foils, whether it's inkjet, whether it's toner based, like we're showing everything. But what give me a little preview of thoughts on the tour, and really, really small preview of what folks can expect from you guys at Printing United as we gear up to head to Orlando.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, so I mean, this goes back to one of my first statements, right, around what is embellishment, and I did kind of the view I take holistically, and that could be so many different things. I think that actually lends itself to some confusion in the marketplace, right? Like if I'm a printer and I'm thinking, oh, maybe this is a great time for me to begin looking into this. Where do I start? What do I do? Right? There's so many ways to approach this out there in the market. And honestly, at a show like Printing United, which we're super excited to be at, 1,000,000 square feet, right? I mean, that can get really dizzying and confusing. And you can wind up sometimes thinking about, Oh my goodness, I'm even more confused than I was before I went to the show. And so I think that the idea of an embellishment tour, specifically around those that are interested in looking at this type of technology, guided by, the only like industry think tank, if you will, for embellishment, that's going to take you through, here's how this one's different than that one. Here's what this one does different than this one, right? That can be really like kind of crystallizing, because it's not a one shoe fits all or one size fits all kind of mentality when it comes to embellishment. There's a bunch of ways to approach it. So obviously, yeah, we're going to be a part of that embellishment tour. I think it's definitely high value for those that are considering, looking at embellishment when they go to Printing United, because there's a lot of different ways to approach it. Specific to Konica Minolta in our booth 5200, we got a great booth this year. Super excited about of everything people are going to be able to see. We're going to bring kind of a breadth of technology that includes our production print engines, which is the first with white, so it has white ink now on it, which white ink on itself, right, fits station. That's a type of embellishment.
Absolutely.
Right next to that is going to be our Accurator Shine 3600, which is, the true, what we consider to be a Konica Minolta digital embellishment technology. So, spot UV for 2D, 3D, sculpted UV clear coats, and our iFoil digital hot foil stamping unit on there. It's all 100% variable digital, just like you would expect a type of equipment, but gives you anywhere from all the foils that you could imagine to the spot UV with the white ink on it. I mean, just an amazing combo on there. We'll have label technology in the booth. We're going to have wide format technology in the booth. A whole suite of software technologies in the booth too, which again, we didn't really talk too much on this call about, but that's another part around digital embellishment that I'm super excited to see kind of starting to form and take shape, which is around enablers to make embellishments easier, right? We talked about the technology and how like it's easier to adopt these days. One of the key reasons is sort of the software technologies that come out of it. I know you guys do a bunch of that. You probably see some of that in your booth.
We do.
We'll have some really cool technologies there too, like soft proofing embellishments in real time, and even some pretty cool stuff that's coming to market from some of our strategic partnerships too that people find really, really exciting to look at.
Awesome, man. Last but not least, we have to get this in there.
Oh boy.
If outside the print room, when you're not talking high-speed presses of foils or embellishments or whatever, what recharges you? Hobbies, passions that might surprise people who only know your work side?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, look, you mentioned this when we started off. Live in the New England area, up in New Hampshire. You can see a couple of lighthouses up behind me. I mean, I grew up on the seacoast area. Right now, I live in the mountains, and so this time of year is fantastic. Right, we spent some time yesterday driving through the White Mountains of New Hampshire, looking at the foliage, and it's a beautiful day up here. Fall is just amazing. So I love hiking, biking, that kind of stuff. You mentioned I have two teens, right? So for those that are in my stage in life with two teenagers, that is all consuming, but that's really where I want to be right now, right? So when I hang up the print hat, I go right into the family time, because that stuff goes by so quick. And it's not my expression, I'm sure everyone's heard it, but the days are long and the years are short, and I try to make the most of it where I can.
It really does go by so fast that I blink. I've got, my youngest is 17, and it's just amazes me. Like, he's a senior in high school, and I'm just like, how in the world did that happen?
What happened? Exactly.
Speaking of which, I told you we're at 30 minutes. And we would turn around and wonder, how did that happen? And it happens because we have great conversations,
man,
with great people in the industry. And Sean, I really want to thank you for being on Taktiful Tuesdays, sharing all of your breadth of knowledge from your experience in the industry and what you're doing at Konica Minolta right now, and what we can expect to see. I hope people will visit you specifically, come find you 5200 in October 22nd to the 24th in Orlando, Florida at Printing United Expo. And otherwise, just pay attention, follow you on LinkedIn, pay attention to what you guys are doing, because I think KM is really doing some exciting stuff in the industry, and we're really proud to be a partner in that respect. So thanks for being on the show, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me. Take care.
See you, man.